Thank you for coming. I appreciate it very much. Welcome. We had a whole bunch of ideas, and I went to Sherry and I started reading off. We could do this. We could do this. We could do this. And then I said, how about how to be your own movie reviewer? And she just lit up. So I knew, oh, that's the thing that she's interested in. So welcome and thank you for coming. A movie review is different from film criticism. Film criticism is more of an interpretation and an evaluation. It's more of an academic thing. They look at meaning and they analyze them. They do a judgment and they do film theory. Like they put together different clumps of films, like feminist and postmodern and all these different ways to study film. But a movie reviewer is different. A movie review is more like we have now. Once, Siskel and Ebert were people who reviewed movies, who criticized movies, and they were iconic in how they did the thumbs up and thumbs down. But then when Roger Ebert passed away, actually Steven Spielberg said, Roger's passing is virtually the end of an era. But now we have Rotten Tomatoes, which the studios hate Rotten Tomatoes because it's us as consumers who are saying if a movie is good or bad. And we'll have an example at the end of a movie that critics hated, but the audience loves. So it affects ticket sales now. So Siskel and Ebert was, once a week, and they couldn't affect ticket sales as dramatically as the movie reviewers, which are professional movie reviewers, and they are just regular consumers. You can log on, you can do an account, and you can be a movie reviewer on Rotten Tomatoes. When you look at film as a reviewer, you look at it as the artistic pieces that film has. This book that Rudolf Arnheim wrote said, in Film is Art, he said, film resembles painting, music, literature, and the dance with respect. It is a medium that may, but need to be used to produce artistic results. So looking at the artistic components of film are important. The comic I liked, you're a moviegoer and I'm a film buff. So in England, they use the word film more than movie. In the United States, we use movie, but when we talk about art house films and going to a film festival, we use the word film. So it has a different connotation in the United States. So there's three ways to really watch movies. There's film festivals, there's art house cinemas, and then going to the regular movies. Film festivals, we have many film festivals in the state of Arizona. We have Phoenix, we have a horror film, we have Jerome, we have Sedona, we have Prescott. There's a Scottsdale International Film Festival, there's a Jewish Film Festival. Tucson has the longest running film festival in the state, and that's been going, I think, over 30 years. When you go to these different ways to watch films, if you're going to be really criticizing or reviewing movies, go with an open mind, because it's going to be not you're going to the movies, going to the theaters. When I married my husband, he had never been to an art house theater. He had never even heard of independent film, really. He went to Sci-Fi and that was it. And he was stuck in Portland for months on end working. And he got bored and he says, what should I do every night? And I said, well, go to an art house theater. And he went to see March of the Penguins. And when he walked into the theater, the experience was, well, some of these seats are taped off and there's a hole in the concrete and there's all this, like, it wasn't like this fancy schmancy Harkins theater, but he sat down and he watched March of the Penguins, and that changed his mind. That opened his mind to independent film and to art house film, because that was an amazing film. If you didn't see it, it's truly worth going to see. So as Sherry said, I run the Prescott Film Festival, and this is the program we use to review movies. So this is something actually my husband Don wrote for us. He's a software engineer, and these are the scores from last year's films, and you can see it goes from A+, and then there's several pages, and it'll go all the way down to an F. Filmmakers submit their movies, and then our who are trained go into this software platform. They watch the movies and then they score the movies. And how they score the movies are on production, and production includes sound, production value, which is the overall look of the film, cinematography, set design, and does anything take you out of the story? Like if your sound is bad, if you're making a film and you don't do well on the sound, it just blows it. It takes everybody out of the movie. The sound mix is wrong, it'll take people out of the movie. So you don't want to be taken out of the movie. Acting, local audience. Like I said, we have film festivals all over the state. How do you choose which one to go to? Well, Sedona is really different from Scottsdale International, and Jerome is totally different from the Prescott Film Festival. So you see which kind, you look at them, you look at the movies from last year, and that's how you decide. Some of them are really expensive, like Sedona. The Platinum Pass is like $1,000. So you have to really, if you're going to make that kind of an investment, you want to know what you're going to. Film festivals are like a celebration of film also. So that includes like free access to meals, and that's what we do in Prescott too. Free access to meals and different perks, you know, good seating and all these different things. We have a wine tasting, yeah, they have parties too, so that includes the parties. And then the rating, like, does it affect your score of the movie if there was language, violence, drugs, alcohol, smoking, any of those things? Because you're your own movie reviewer in this. And where you live, like local audience, that's another thing that we look at. Where you live, you choose where to live by being with like-minded people usually. So if you judge that those things are too much for you to handle, that those things take you out of the movie, then you would rate those down. And then overall, even if, oh, you know, there were some weird things about this and I really like different things, but I still liked the overall movie. The overall movie was still a lot of fun. Where this doesn't work is one of the very first years of the Prescott Film Festival, we had this woman who kept reviewing these movies and she kept marking them down, down, down. She's given everything D's or F's. And I couldn't figure it out, so I gave her a call. And she gave me an example, and she said, that young man was mean to his mother. I did not like that movie. Well, that's not how you judge a movie. That means that character was good and he's stuck with you in your mind. So you judge them that way. So how do you learn to review films yourself? Did anybody see Bisbee 17? It was out in the fall. Okay. I'm from Cochise County, so I desperately wanted to get Bisbee 17 into my film festival. And they kept saying no, no, no. So they did. They wouldn't let me have it. But then when they did the release, the week before they did a general release, they called me and said, hey, can you co-present a screening of it, and we'll have the historian from the film come. And so we did a screening at Harkins, and the historian from the film came, and she did a Q&A afterwards. So Harkins was willing to do this because they want word of mouth. We didn't get any money from it, but I wanted to support this film. So it played actually 2 weeks ago at the Mary D. Fisher Theater, so it was out here. I'm going to show you the trailer for Bisbee 17. So that was a movie that had a reenactment of how what happened there in Bisbee. I had never heard of this. I was born and raised in Cochise County. I did the centennial video for Cochise County, and I'd never heard of this. So I was just totally engaged in it. So what the critics said about this movie, they said, and this will show you the difference between a critic and a movie reviewer, a profoundly haunted and haunting film from the New York Times. Green's Haunting Bisbee 17 finds America in a showdown with itself, from the Village Voice. And from the New Yorker, Green peels the layers of oblivion of history like so many layers of paint. Bill Goody-Kuntz is more conversational, and he's the movie reviewer from the Arizona Republic. And if you find someone that you like I like Bill Goody Koontz, then you can go to him and rely on him more. His review said, "Some people think of Bisbee as a hip little town in southern Arizona, a fun place to have a beer at the Copper Queen Hotel or discover local artists. It's got a rich history of mining, back when mining was a source of riches. But as we learn in Bisbee 17, Robert Greene's innovative documentary that incorporates dramatic recreation and more traditional fact-finding, there is a lot more to its history, and not all of it good. If Greene had simply told the story in a more straightforward documentary fashion, Bisbee 17 would be an interesting film. But telling the story within the story, he's done something more. He's made an urgent, powerful one." So he gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. And 2017 was the 100th anniversary of when they shipped those migrants out of Bisbee, and the town was reenacting it. And so Robert Greene, whose mother lives there, found out about this and then thought he would blend history and the reality of that present day, of them reenacting it. And they had actual people, like she was talking about her grandfather, who actually were a part of that deportation, reenacted. One of them was a house that, I think it was the same house that her grandfather had lived in. So this is what you find with art house cinema, with different films that are outside the box. This is inside the box. This is kind of an illustration of the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell is brilliant. George Lucas calls him my Yoda. Studio films use this because it works, because this is how we've always told stories. But it's really films by committee, so you don't get these interesting, weird, exciting things like you would get with Bisbee 17. So, and by the way, Bill Moyers has an old interview series it's on Netflix right now, where he interviews Joseph Campbell. It's absolutely fascinating. So you'll just walk away from that documentary just knowing how brilliant that man was. So this, I'll get those out of order. Bill Goody Koontz. So how you review films is you look at what ingredients go into a film. Production value in cinematography, lighting, like this is a film noir example. It's from a 2001 Coen Brothers film starring Billy Bob Thornton. And lighting is a part of the picture that filmmakers paint. Does the lighting fit the mood? How well are they fitting the mood? Does the setting work? Are they in the right location? Is it a unified theme? Shadow and light, same thing. And composition. So you use shot composition helps tell the story of, like the architecture here, they use this repetitive staircase, which makes you think, oh, here we go again, kind of a theme in the film. Color and contrast. Wes Anderson is absolutely amazing. He uses actual color palettes for all of his films, and if you look up Wes Anderson color, you're going to see the color palettes that he uses in each film, and that's how important the color is to him. The Graduate is a really good example of production value because it's from 1967 and it had a very distinct visual design. Mrs. Robinson is kind of the predator, and she's after this young Ben. Well, what is she dressed in? Animal skins. But they wanted her to still be a real person, so they painted in the tan lines so that she would look like, oh, she's been sunbathing and she is a real person. They wanted to think about the beasts in the jungle. And then for Ben is seen in behind glass, not only for this last shot, but he opens with looking at his aquarium through it, so he's behind the glass. When he's in his scuba mask, he's behind glass. So those are the subtexts and the meanings that filmmakers put in that makes these films forever classic. So it's really thinking through the story you want to tell. It's not just, oh, I've got a script, I'm going to throw it up there and I'm going to make it work. These details are what makes it work. Screenwriting is the next piece that we look at, and that's part of the story. I brought scripts so you can look and see what actual scripts look like. they're formatted differently than a novel, obviously. But what makes a good story, and what are iconic lines that you remember decades after you've seen the films? Does anyone remember the films that were nominated for Best Original Screenplay last year? Most people don't. Because the writers, even though they're at the base of the story, the base of the films, people don't remember who the writers are. So these are the films for Best Original Screenplay that were nominated last year. And if you didn't see The Shape of Water, that's an amazing film. But does anybody guess which one won? Does anybody remember? Get Out won for Best Original Screenplay, a horror movie. So everybody, if you were betting on which one was going to win, you get blown out of the water. Performance also is, you get good actors. One of the things that happens when you're making your own films is you look at how can I get this made, and you look at your costumes, you're looking at all these different pieces. And one of the things I've seen people do, independent filmmakers in Arizona for Westerns, is like you go to Tombstone and there's reenactors, right? Well, here's these guys that know how to shoot, they've got their own costumes, they've got their own guns, let's hire those guys. Don't do that. You need to audition every single actor that you're considering using. Not that you're going to get Oscar-nominated people first starting out, but you judge the film by the actors. They're the voice of what the writer wrote. So, so be careful when you choose that. Editors are amazing. According to the Washington Post, director David Lean shot more than 33 miles of film for Lawrence of Arabia. And his editor was Ann V. Coates. She recently just passed away. She had to cut that into a watchable movie. Now, people thought that, you know, a 3-hour movie was a pretty long movie, but when you start out with 33 miles of film, and it was film, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't video where you could do it on your computer. It was an amazing piece of work, and she was known forever for that. And directors are at the base also. The director falls in love with the script, and then he finds a producer, is one of the ways that happens. But it's collaborative. It's a collaborative art. So anytime when you see somebody won for Best Director, they're going to thank everybody, because it takes everybody to make the film. It truly does. Martin Scorsese, he got 11 Oscar nominations for the film Hugo. Has anybody seen Hugo? It's a beautiful film, and it's really pretty close on the life of the person, Georges Méliès. But they had 11 Oscar nominations. They were for, and you'll see through this list that they're from a collaboration. Best Picture, Adapted Screenplay, Director, Visual Effects, Art Direction, Sound Editing, Sound Mixing, and Cinematography. So it took a lot of people to do that. Film reviewing has become democratic. So there's a movie blogger named Max Lalane, and he said times are changing, but it's for the best. If film criticism itself is the act of print publications having the only respectable critics worth reading, then yes, film criticism is dying. But if film criticism is the pure and great act of analyzing and reviewing cinema, then my friends, it is a blooming and flourishing art that is being fueled more and more every day. And this is the example I was talking about. The critics hated Bohemian Rhapsody, but the audience is loving it. So that translates into the dollars for them. So pulling it all together is how you take all of the items listed from production, which includes sound, production value, cinematography, set design. Does anything take you out of the story? You take in the acting, you look at the overall audience, you are the local audience. Overall, if it's a little weird but you still like it, do you care about the language? All of those things together are what goes into being a movie reviewer. And if you want to actually write movie reviews, there's ways for you to do that. You can go to little local papers. There's online papers all over the place that you could do movie reviews for. Phoenix Film Festival and the Prescott Film Festival both have movie reviewers, and we put out a newsletter that goes for those. That, you know, just audience members who say, hey, I saw this in the theater and this is what I thought. We have 2 online classes in our screenwriting certificate that are starting pretty soon. They're starting next semester. Iconic films and movie reviews and criticisms. And if you're in movie reviews and criticism, you'll be a movie reviewer for the film festival. So we'll sign you up and you can become that movie reviewer. And there's I have little pieces of paper there if you wanted to sign up to do that. You can also take those 2 classes through ComEd. So they're online, but you can take them through ComEd and you pay less in the tuition and you just do the fun stuff. You don't have to write the papers. So that's another way to take those really good classes. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.